Hello, everybody. It's your host, Tiff, and you are now tuned into the Red Light District. And tonight I have my co host, Key. And to my right directly, I have Cashmere, who is our special guest this evening. So, Cashmere, thank you so much for coming out. I'm so excited to actually get this episode started because we have a lot to cover. It's actually going to be a two-parter. So, without further ado, please introduce yourself, basically why you're here, and then we're gonna do a deep dive into some other stuff once you're done.
Okay, so my name is Cashmere O'Neill. I am a licensed social worker, a psychiatric evaluator, as well as a professor at an HBCU, same one that I graduated from too. Um, However, is in my profession, I deal with a lot of people who deal with sexual trauma, sexual philias, the different lifestyles, poly and swinging, BDSM, things of that nature. And aside from all of this, I just enjoy intimate connections.
That's awesome. Now, let's get started with obviously, we have some trinkets on the table.
Obviously.
But let's get started with actually how you started in this particular lifestyle world. So, around what age did you originally come into the lifestyle? And when you were introduced,
Okay, so as far as introduction,
yes.
the introduction was through my grandparents.
Hmm.
My grandparents, well, let me just start here. My family is very open when it comes down to sexuality, communication, relationships, things of that nature. As far as the intricate details of sensuality, intimacy, sex, and things of that nature, my family has moved from grandparents who kept Harlequin books. I'm sure y'all heard of those
Yes.
before, and different type of sex books and things of that nature. And I moved from that to being in multiple different types of relationships where it had the features of poly or it had elements of being an open type of a relationship, and then moved towards swinging and then BDSM from there. Um, my actual introduction to BDSM occurred when I went to a pan party.
Okay.
And so, for those who don't know what pan is, that's everything. Everything you can think of, whether it be gay, lesbian, trans, uh, uh, heterosexual, cisgendered heterosexual,
Right.
non. Uh,
It's the melting
it's
pot.
the entire thing, the mixed soup of
Gotcha.
sexuality, right? I went to a pan party early on while I was in college and really started to see the intricate details of how people interact. And I was turned on by that. I was turned on by just the setting itself, the ambiance, the way things were set up, and how people were fluid in their connections, meeting and greeting, and then engaging each other in those type of settings.
Did you participate?
I did participate my first go around.
Wow. Okay.
I did participate my first go around. I participated as well as two of my partners at the time.
Hmm.
So we all participated, and then we went back, had a conversation, of course, discussed, the different things that we enjoyed, what we didn't like, what we would like to see happen
Right.
more, but in different ways, modified. It was just a great experience the first time.
Okay.
Second time wasn't that great.
Oh.
The second time, of course, that's you go to different settings and they're
Right.
not the same. They don't have the same quality of people. And then I felt that being around people of color who were kink oriented, kink friendly, that was more of my scene.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's why it wasn't that great of an experience the second time.
So I know that we have talked off camera in
Hmm.
regards to your deep dive into like sex clubs and things of that nature.
Hmm.
Do you prefer more of a sex club setting or would you prefer more of like a pan party setting
So
or any type of sex party, I should say?
I actually prefer more organized, um, catered, something specified at a small venue.
Okay.
I, I don't necessarily prefer a sex club.
Okay.
I will definitely go to a sex club. I'll go to a sex club just to have drinks and a conversation. That's that's just cool with me. I'm good
Right.
with that. But as far as my interest is to play, to
Mhm.
engage, I prefer smaller settings. I prefer something to be in a secluded location, whether it be, in the Poconos somewhere or
Gotcha.
at an undisclosed location, some type of mansion, or even someone's home who facilitates that I'm very familiar with. I'm very comfortable in those type of settings because I also want to make sure that I'm safe and everyone else is safe that I'm participating.
And those particular settings are where they typically vet the
Yes,
people who are coming. So you have to
very.
turn in like STD reports
Within a
and things like that.
72-hour window.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, you have to, it's very fresh. So 72 hours from the start of the event.
Wow.
So you may be outside of that window if you got it like maybe the day earlier
Right.
or early in the morning. You might need to get that towards the end of the day so we can still have 72 hours from that window because some people still couldn't participate. That's how strenuous it was for some of the parties that I've been to. Um, I also prefer that if we're going to go, then there's a certain amount of single men.
Right.
It's extremely limited to single men, including myself. And when I was participating, I
Right.
was like, how many single men are here? Because that is going to be an indicator of whether or not something can happen here.
Right. Right.
Because single men are loose cannons, and they're not always honest. Let's just
Right.
be real. They're just not very honest. And especially when they think that there's going to be a consequence if they're not participating,
Mm,
they would scapegoat that honesty.
gotcha.
You know what I'm saying, or circumvent it. I don't want that to be a part of my reality, and definitely at this particular point in my life, I don't want to bring home nothing needs to come home with me except the paycheck.
Absolutely.
You feel me? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just not have no problems. You feel me?
So, in those particular events, because I know that I follow a page, I think it's called like Lavish Lux or
Yes.
something along those lines, where they have a very rigorous vetting process
Mm-hmm.
where you have to turn in paperwork, they do background checks, they
Mm-hmm.
do all types of things in order
References
for
and
you.
things of that nature.
Exactly. And I think that if you're referred by someone else, it's a little bit less strenuous.
Mm-hmm.
However, you still go through a vetting process.
Yep.
Is this something that you would be interested in actually hosting at one point?
So I actually have hosted plenty of times,
Mhm.
not to the degree of Lavish Lux.
Okay.
They're doing phenomenal work. Let me just put that out
Yes.
there. If y'all haven't seen Lavish Lux, and I'm talking to TV land, wherever y'all at,
Like,
if y'all don't know anything about Lavish Lux, they put on a phenomenal venue. And that's not, me being someone who participated, but I'm speaking about there is never anyone who's participated that comes back and is unsatisfied.
right.
That is unheard of.
And
Yeah, because wait, what?
Yeah.
so let me explain, Key.
Mhm.
There is a organization that actually does Fet Life parties. So
Okay.
they have
Upscale.
parties, yes, very upscale. Typically, I think their price point is going to be anywhere from, I would say, $175 upwards, maybe like $300, depending on the event you choose to go to. And then everybody who goes through the vetting process also gets to choose what role they play in that particular party. So if they're going to be a dom, they are going to sign up for dom duties. If they're
Yes.
going to be a sub, they're going, or in this particular case, they refer to them as big letters, little letters. And they have roles within the party to actually facilitate throughout the time of the party. And then once a particular portion of the party is completed, they move on to, I believe, the sexual aspect of the party as well.
And so what you're doing is the first part of it, you're getting what we call a high protocol or, a formal erotic dining. And so what occurs in that particular space, as a sub, you may have different tasks, or you might have to service other people who would be considered big letters or doms or whatever it is they identify as that is not sub-oriented. So you would serve them food, you would communicate with them, serve drinks, you would, there's different interactions that go on, and you are also watched and vetted through the entire process, so that way you stay on cue as well, because it is a formal event. There is specific rules and aesthetics that must be catered to
And they give you a
maintained.
pamphlet.
Exactly.
They give you a large booklet that
And it's a lot
actually
of research.
indicates, yes,
It's a lot of research.
what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, and it also determines whether you're invited back for another event or if you'll be able to return to another event.
And so those type of settings, right? So those type of
I
settings,
want to go.
yeah, it's amazing. And so
Oh my God.
those type of settings are phenomenal, but the problem is it's not for everyone.
Yes.
And no matter how much you think it is for you, it sometimes isn't for you in that particular time.
Right.
You know, because again, the vetting process is real strenuous and specific, and it is to keep people safe, but also keep people who have a good vibe participating so that the event runs smoothly.
Right.
So, you know, those are things that you have to work out or at least look out for. So for me, I participated in events like that, not with Lavish Lux.
Okay.
Definitely looking forward to it at some point in time. But I've also, you know, participated in and hosted different type of lifestyle parties and things of that nature that included elements of that. For example, the high protocol dining,
Right.
and having someone on top of the actual dinner. We eat off of that individual,
Right.
and everyone is sitting gathered around and participating in the dining experience, and then of course the play experience afterwards. So I mean, I've participated and hosted in those cases.
So, in terms of relationship status,
Mhm.
where do you classify yourself
I
at
am
this
married.
time? Okay.
I am married, and I am, I would say 13 years poly.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that she is. That doesn't mean that she is.
Can you clarify that just
What
for
that means.
everyone
So
watching?
I am an ambivalent. I am someone who does very well in monogamy or polyamory.
Okay.
And either side of the table, I just need to know what we're getting into moving forward, and we have a clear negotiation on what that is, and so we can figure out what those boundaries are and how to coexist within that. But I function very well on either side of the table. Now, me being poly engaged doesn't mean that me being with my partner, my wife, or whomever that may be at any point in time has to be that as well.
Gotcha. So, now I know that Facebook triggers a lot of conversations in regards to the poly lifestyle
Right.
and the actual true meaning of having a poly partner. A lot of people believe that, poly can be selfish, especially from the male point of view, because they are reaping multiple benefits, or is perceived as such, by having multiple partners. So, in a poly relationship as a male, first, my initial question is, how do you go into that conversation with someone that you're with or a potential partner? And how do you also navigate the situation where maybe they're also not interested in necessarily being poly themselves, but would be okay with your lifestyle? Is that hard to juggle?
It can be, but honesty is key.
Okay.
Straight out the gate. If you can be honest from the moment you meet someone, you're more likely not to have problems on the back end somewhere.
Right.
And the more upfront about your honesty that you are, because again, you can be honest over time.
Right.
And so, we're not going to get into the semantics of white lies and things of that nature. But the reality of it is, the more upfront you are, the better. For me, I take the stance that when I meet you, I need you to understand. When you meet me, when you get into this, you need to understand what you get into. I'm not that kind of person that's going to be. You might have an issue with me saying hi to somebody
Right.
and think it's flirtatious.
Right.
I'm not going to have an issue with you having a desire to have sex with somebody. So you can't get mad at me if I don't have a jealousy type of space with you when you might think that that's romantic or lovely. That can be an issue. It has been an issue before because people fantasize what their idea of love is rather than what the actual reality of who their partner is.
Gotcha.
And so, you can be with somebody and think that at some point in time, oh, they love me, then, they'll take a bullet for me. And that's some crazy talk, right? Would you take a bullet for me, romanticizing that stuff, Would you fight somebody if they touch my butt in the club? Like,
To show people that they
you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's
acts of service.
Yeah.
To them, those are some acts of service.
those may be acts of service.
Right.
But it also may be feeding into the narcissism or the self-esteem, lack of self-esteem as well.
That part.
In that person, there may be some trauma there of being abandoned, of being neglected, being told that they weren't good enough, and that is the thing that makes them feel like they are
Exactly.
adequate.
Right.
And so, having a partner who is completely all for them when they never had someone,
Mhm.
they never had a family member, a mother, a father who was all for them.
Right.
Those are things that people fanaticize and fantasize about with regard to love experiences.
Right.
But it's not always a reality for their partner. And that creates a disconnect, a discord.
Gotcha. So with your wife,
Mhm.
how did, I guess, not getting into, the particulars of your
Right, right,
marriage, but in regards to you saying, hey, um, you don't teeter on either side of the fence when it comes to monogamy or polyamory. Um, how did she, I guess, initially take that? Like, I guess when you guys made the decision to move into the poly, or you made the decision like, hey, poly is what I want at this time,
Mhm.
how did she take that?
And so her perspective was, and again, she's a monogamous woman. This
Right.
is what she knows. This is what she grew up with. She come from a country family, and of course, her orientation to relationship has been specifically the biblical.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
So that is what it is, right? For her to be with somebody like me, the first introduction to me was, I am talking to other people. This is what's going on.
Right.
And she's like, well, I don't care if you talk to other people. I know you're going to choose me.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? And
I like
so
that.
me being upfront about that also gave her an idea that this is what I'm getting into,
right.
but I also have an understanding of who I am and what I bring to the table.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to the poly lifestyle as a husband,
Mhm.
how does that change the dynamics of things in a household?
So
If it does.
it, any type of relationship is going to change based on the relationship status.
Okay.
I don't care what people say about that. Marriage is a whole different beast. It's a monster.
It is.
That vow before God.
And not only that, the vow for each other is different.
Exactly.
People unleash themselves when they
Yes.
get a ring, and then they get some
Things
authority.
change.
Yeah.
And I've
You know what I'm
had
saying?
this
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
Like, people like to say marriage is just a piece of paper. Baby.
Nah, bruh.
No, it's not.
It's
Because
different.
once that paper is signed, your obligation to that
It's
person
different.
is completely different than prior to. No matter
Exactly.
how much you try to say it's not going to matter, everything's going to
It's-
stay the same, it doesn't,
Because
because
what people don't realize is it's a legal institution. No matter
Mhm.
how you look at it, it's a legal institution.
and I'm holding you at a different level of hierarchy because you're not my boyfriend anymore.
Exactly.
So the things that I require of you as a husband are not going to be the same things I require of you as a boyfriend,
Exactly.
and vice versa. So
and that also comes back to what people were exposed to early on, and so having families that were completely intact. You saw two people get married and they stayed together, or you saw grandma get together, papa and them. You seen them people, papa, you know what I'm saying, big mama and them. They stayed together. My dad, they stayed together, whether they liked each other or not.
right.
And the reality of it is, even when you look at it and you have to really question, we have family members that we knew were family members. We just didn't know what the connection was. But that was Papa other family, or you know what I'm saying? There's something like that. That's my other cousin. But there were some things that kept people together, because when marriage is a part of it, it takes on its own life. It has a different breadth of capacity and living. And so, getting into that, like me getting married, the one thing that I didn't want to do is fail my marriage.
Right.
That I didn't care what nobody else. I didn't care what the Bible said about it. I didn't care what she said about it. I don't care what my mama said. Nobody. For me,
Right.
But what would be that thing that would fail your marriage?
me.
Yeah, look, we all reposition. Like, what do you mean? How?
I would be the one thing that would fail my marriage. If I'm not communicating, I'm not adhering to the things that she needs to secure her, to provide safety, satisfaction, comfort, to speak into her life and to protect her in those capacities, spiritual connection, intimacy, sensuality. These are things that are necessary to build into her self-esteem and to let her know that no matter what happens, there's no one that comes before her.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, understanding that my family is critical and they are the first priority. These are things that would sustain her moving forward, regardless of what my previous lifestyle was or what we agreed upon in the marriage. These are the things that are critical, and that even goes to, things that, as a young man I did and I still do at times.
Right.
Staying out at 4 in the morning. That don't make nobody secure, right?
Right.
Right.
Coming home like, oh, I was working late. Really? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying, like, I would say some other words, some choice words, but for real, like, this is what we're gonna do. Like, make it make sense.
Right.
Like, so those things don't secure the relationship. It does not provide a stable foundation. Because at some point in time, it eats at a person, right? So for me to feel the marriage, I have to do the things that I promised that I would do, and I stopped doing at some point in time.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I said A, I gotta be a man of my word.
Gotcha. Now, let's move away from the marriage portion
Yeah,
because I want to get a little spicy.
that's spicy.
Now,
Wait. Before
Yes.
that, would you be in a poly with another man and a woman? Like
I
a
have
woman
polyandry. Yeah, I've actually done polyandry twice, and it worked out extremely well. The only difference.
wow, really?
Yeah, extremely well. And this is the reason why, because again, I do not identify as anything beyond cisgendered heterosexual.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That is exactly who I am. That is all I've ever been.
Right.
I've never participated in sexual activity with other men when it comes down to me physical contact with them.
Right.
However, I've had relationships where it was me, this individual woman, another participant who was male, and we had a connection as almost like brothers, like a brother husband
Right.
type situation. Like, we vibed that way, and it was no competition between us. It was just supportive and brotherly love, and we focused on providing this woman the things that she needed.
So like Kevin Gates just said in his
Yeah.
thing, like him and his bro, they both they please the woman. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's
Gotcha.
how it's supposed to
And would you ever feel at any time like that can be overwhelming? How did you guys work out that polyandry situation? Was it you, because there's a lot of questions. Was it you get Monday, Wednesday, he get, like how did you work it out? Were you guys in a similar home and you were all together?
So the funny
What was
thing
that?
is, everyone asks that same question, no matter what side of the table poly you're on. Do you get a certain day? They get a certain day. Like, if it works, it works. If
Right.
if the vibe is right and y'all together at the same time, you have it at the same time. It can be like we all watching TV and I'm just chilling. I just want to watch a movie,
Right.
and y'all feeling it. Y'all can go ahead and start doing whatever y'all doing. It's not gonna bother me. Have fun.
Oh.
I still won't watch this movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, however it works out. Like, so whether it's together, not together, individual, like me and you go out on a date and we enjoy ourselves individually to build our bond, and then we come back, we can do something, and that person never even participate.
Gotcha.
Or we can come back and all three of us participate because it was such a good vibe, such good energy, and such
Right.
stimulating that this person, like, I feel that. I want a piece of it. You know what I'm saying? So whether that be, in a polyandry relationship, polyamorous relationship, it doesn't really matter the sex. It can vibe the same way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the Dom lifestyle,
Okay.
how did you get introduced to Dom submissive? And then I'll deep dive into that once you answer.
So I had already been aware of the BDSM lifestyle. Like I said, my grandparents had literature. They had a certain lifestyle that they lived, and I was already exposed to a lot of different elements. So I was aware of what was going on.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily need a whole lot of language behind it.
Gotcha.
What occurred was I individually sought out to be with a specific person that I saw playing at a party.
Okay.
This particular person, she aired more towards the side of being a top,
Okay.
not a dame, but a top. You know what I'm saying?
And what is the difference
So-
in that?
Exchange of power is the difference.
Okay.
So if I'm servicing as a top, that means that, again, we contract, we negotiate what that looks like as far as what acts will take place, and we participate in those things, but I'm providing that energy to you, and then we part ways and go our separate ways, but you still control all of that. But as a dom, you give over or dame, you give over your submission to me. You give your power to me to make the decision, to choice, to guide this, to really drive this bus.
Okay.
However, most people mistake the fact that they're doms because they have a how do we say, a not passive but an aggressive personality,
Okay.
or they may be assertive and they think that they're dominant. That's not accurate.
Gotcha.
And you will hear a lot of men say, I'm dom, and they're not.
Right. They're just aggressive.
They can be aggressive, or they can be assertive, or because they're just men, they
Yeah.
assume
They just-
that they are dom. And that's not it. Because most doms, they ain't gonna tell you they dom.
Exactly.
You're going to feel a presence. You're gonna feel an energy. You're gonna feel the vibe that they bring, the communication, the language, how they interact, you know, and how they even look at you, how they present themselves to you. These things are going to be real critical in, you know, the interaction, the engagement, and the connection to determine whether or not they have that dominant spirit to be able to now fully engage you to want to submit and gift me your submission.
Mm.
Because again, submission can be gifted and taken back.
Wow. So, do you ever physically draw contracts, or is this all a verbal exchange?
Formal contracts are preferred.
Okay.
Formal contracts are preferred. Or initially, of course, I ain't write up nothing. Get in this hole. This is what we doing. Shorty, tune it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it wasn't. But it wasn't gonna be no contract, because I'm like, what's understood don't need to be spoken.
Right.
But that's familiarity.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, in this particular space, if I'm providing service to someone else, of course, it needs to be a negotiated contract.
Gotcha.
And I'm not someone who's going to just engage just because you say you want to engage.
Exactly.
Just because you be like, oh, I liked how you do things, and I liked the vibe that you brought, or I saw how you seemed with somebody. I saw how you know, actually provided that type of experience. I want that with you. That don't mean I'm gonna engage you.
And with that particular experience, I have a feeling that you've come across someone who believed that there's something that they want, and then when you guys actually got into that, it really wasn't what they thought they wanted.
Does it happen often?
It happens more often than not, because let me say this. As a kid, you heard the term or the phrase, your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't write a check. Your ass can't pay. You done heard these, right?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to say another one. You crazy to the bed, but the point is this. The reality is, people get into stuff because it's intriguing.
Right.
But they don't fully do the research. It's the same thing with fraternities and sororities. People will be like, oh, I want to pledge. I want to do A, B, and C.
Because
I
they
want to be
see the good things.
I see that, but I don't
Right.
see all the other stuff that goes into this. More importantly, you don't even come right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just me being frat. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You need to come to me to address me. I'm Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Look, Kappa man.
But won't he do it? But the point is, you didn't even come to me with a full understanding of what you're trying to be in.
Okay.
What research did you do to let me know that this is a true interest of yours and you're fully entrenched in trying to immerse yourself in this thing to say this is what I really want? What research did you do?
Right.
And so it's the same thing with, especially when you're dealing with your own sexuality and your own sexual pleasure. You need to know you before you step in a ring with someone else, because that is a complete different animal, a different beast. This isn't just me getting credentials or letters.
Right.
This is me giving my physical body, my being, and my spirit and emotions to someone.
Right.
And if I give it to the wrong person, it can wreck me.
Right. And with a lot of power comes responsibility. What are your responsibilities as a dom?
So this is the thing. As a dom, my responsibility is never to dictate to you everything that you need to do and not be in service to you. I need to first understand service. I need to first understand the capacity to...
Key over here like,
right.
my coochie. She over here like...
The thing is thinking.
It's thinking.
And so the reality of it is, like, I need to be able to cater to you.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be able to understand your wants, your needs, your desires, your hurts, your past, your pains, the things that make you tick. I need to understand what makes you you, what makes you want to be more, what makes you feel less than. I need to know all those things. I need to be intricately
So this
engaged and enmeshed with you.
It's a very, very deep psychological connection, which I think a lot of people don't understand.
Psycho-emotional.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
psycho-
literally,
yeah.
yes.
It's a lifestyle.
It is.
This is not just, all right, I'm gonna
Oh
go
my
over his
God.
house and he's gonna paddle me for 20
Yeah.
minutes and that's it, I'm leaving.
You can-
It's not that.
It's a
Come on now.
lifestyle.
You can do that somewhere else. Like literally, if you play basketball, you don't get paddled on the. You see, like somebody will give you a pat on the ass enough times that you got what you need. This ain't that.
Right.
It's like I'm giving myself away.
Right. This is literally, I am investing all of my trust into you,
Yeah.
and I'm trusting that you're going to take care of me adequately enough for me to feel full.
Right. And then on top of that, I need to be able to provide a space, a emotional atmosphere, a spiritual connection and atmosphere to let you feel that you're secure,
Right.
you're safe. This is safe space.
Right.
You have the capacity to do these things that we've negotiated according to our power exchange dynamic.
Right.
Because if you're giving me your power, I need to honor that.
Right.
I need to be wholeheartedly wholesome with that thing.
Right.
Because if I don't, then I can actually do more harm than good. I can unlock traumas and hurts and pains that you never thought were even still there, if you even recognize that they're present.
And I think that's a big thing because, you know, when 50 Shades of Grey came out, and every time I speak with a dom, they hate that.
Hate that.
They hate that
Yeah,
fucking
that
movie.
movie's the
movie,
worst.
the book, everything. They're like, yeah,
They hate 50 Shades of Grey with a fucking passion because really
It
their
is not a
logic
true
is,
depiction of the BDSM lifestyle or
Yes.
the DS connection.
and it was, like you just said, a very superficial bond that he built with his love interest initially.
Yeah.
And then even his sub, it didn't really seem like there was a deep connection.
It wasn't.
It was just somebody who was infatuated with him. And of course, who isn't going to be infatuated with
you
a
read the
fucking
books?
billionaire? Yeah.
Okay, so the books from your own perspective, though.
Yeah.
The way, if you read the books from your own perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it gives a little different type of energy. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It does.
Gotcha.
It does. If you read it from your own,
Yeah, no,
like
no.
me as a possible sub, me reading that book made me feel like a sub.
And I'm glad you said that because the way you identify is also going to be how you view.
Right.
And so, me being someone who has facilitated, and again, I am what we identified as a dom, right?
Right.
I'm identified in that capacity. But it doesn't mean that I have not facilitated the switch space.
And have you been a switch?
And I've been a switch before.
Okay.
And again, most people
Just to clarify, in case you guys can't take context clues, a switch means that he has also been submissive in the past as well. So he's teetered on both sides.
And I did that for me, not because of me being vetted or anything like that, or being told that this is the right way. I did it because my particular model for life is, if you're going to be a good leader, every good leader was an even better servant. And so I need to understand what is this dynamic from a service perspective, so that if I step into the role of being that to lead, I'm doing it with the utmost care.
Right.
And I'm doing so understanding of what am I impeding or now in bringing to someone else. What am I exposing them to? And have I gone through it myself? Because the one thing you don't want to do is be with somebody who's never understood what they're doing,
Yeah.
and they don't understand
Exactly.
the ramifications for that.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's, I mean, they have that in almost every job. Look at when you go into being a police officer or a correction officer. Through training, they make sure that you know what it feels like to be tased, to be pepper sprayed, and things like that, because you know what you're inflicting on others.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, some people just have a power and control problem.
Right.
And they completely make that a wash. It goes right out the window.
Yep. Now, in regards to actually being a dom, does that necessarily entail you having sex with submissives?
No, not at all. You can have a submissive that you're in service with,
Mm-hmm.
because again, for me, service is both ways.
Right.
How I service you is different from how you service me, but it's still service, right?
Correct. It's an
So-
exchange.
exactly. And so that being stated, me being in service with this other individual who is now providing a gift of submission to me, does not require me to physically engage with them at all times. It depends on how we negotiated our relationship, our connection in this DS dynamic.
Have you ever had someone plead after you guys have originally negotiated that, you know, you're not gonna break barriers in terms of sex? Have you ever had someone beg you or request that you actually
Yes.
move forward with sexual
Yes.
contact?
How does that work?
It's happened on a few different occasions, and for me, I have only changed the dynamic once.
Mm.
I decided not to change the dynamic the other times because the personalities.
Gotcha.
And again, I'm a mental health practitioner.
Right.
I mean, I diagnose, assess, and treat mental health.
Right.
You know, this is what I do for a living. So I'm constantly going to start there
Right.
to assess somebody's capacity, their trauma, and how they're showing up. You get what I'm saying? And so if I'm in relationship with this person, or if I have a dynamic with this person
Right.
in a DS type of a space, I'm constantly there too. So if I feel as though that they are the extremely clingy type because of past issues with attachment,
Right.
not having a father or not having a mother that was ever there for them, and they constantly cling to people so that it can be validated and to have their self-esteem, and they can't manage and deal with that appropriately in all settings, then ultimately I may go ahead and scale back and say, we don't need to take it there because you won't be able to manage this. This is already difficult enough.
Right.
And
To
bring
add
that,
another
Yeah.
dynamic is going to be too
I feel like your
Another
degree
level,
in
yeah.
social work like puts it over the edge because you have like a mental connection that like most people don't have.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I never wanted to say, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
I really do. Because at least it gives some clarity as to, you know, the importance of understanding people.
Right.
But some of the best practitioners of this don't have any degrees at all.
Wow.
They just have been so entrenched with understanding people based on experience
Right.
that they just get it.
Right.
They can see it before it starts to happen because of the stuff that they've been through, the stuff that they've seen over time, you know, the stuff that they just have learned about people and how people move and think and operate. So I never want to say my degree is going to take me there. My degree opened up a new level of eyes to look through, or gave me a different pair of glasses to look
Yeah.
through. But
So,
yeah.
in the bedroom, when you're outside of the dom space,
Yeah.
are you still very dominant?
Yes.
Okay,
So-
I was gonna say,
okay.
is that a thing? Is that a thing of being outside of the dom space
Yes.
in the bedroom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he can be subservient in regular life,
Okay.
but when he gets into the headspace of being a dom, it's like a switch. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
And the
mean?
funny thing is, most people don't realize your career, where you currently are in your career, oftentimes dictates
Yeah.
what you feel you need in a sexual space.
Yes,
in
like
intimate space.
CEOs are very
They're
submissive.
tired of being in
Yes.
charge. They don't want to be in
Very.
charge. They're tired of giving out
Very.
advice and
They're
making
tired-
decisions.
yes.
I just
Okay.
want to be here. Take me to a space.
And you tell me what to do.
And I'm
Okay.
good
Tell
with
me
that.
grovel on the
Okay.
ground. Tell me like I'm going to fucking lick the bottom of your shoe. I want to do that.
I'm
As long as
cool.
I don't have to think,
Yeah.
I'm cool with it.
And the funny thing is, unfortunately, the reality for us people of color,
Mm-hmm.
it is not one communicated about. It's not something that we talk about. But more importantly, it's not something we fully accept either.
Mhm.
And so that being stated, black men specifically, and I'm not saying anyone else,
Right.
but what I am saying is black men specifically do not have a safe space to explore anything beyond traditional sex unless you have come from a different type of background or you have been exposed to some things that
I
would make you
completely agree.
change
Very
your
true.
mindset.
Very
But from a social perspective, the outside looking in, they won't let you
No.
get away from it.
Very
And
true.
everything is, unfortunately,
Yeah.
made either very, very
Hyper
you're
feminine.
hyper feminine, you're emasculated, or it's perceived as being gay,
It's
even though there's
generally
no.
frowned upon.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Frowned upon,
Even though
generally.
there's no contact. For instance, we've talked about this on a past episode.
Yeah.
We've talked about men having, a rim job.
Yeah, anal
that-
stimulation.
Yeah, anal
Yeah.
stimulation.
As a matter of fact, look, I'm with the shit.
Talk to me.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Talk to me.
I'm with the shit.
Nice.
And the funny thing is because I actually had these conversations with multiple different people in different arenas, right? So I don't mind anal play.
Right.
I'm cool with anal play. I'm cool with, you know what I'm saying, all those different types of things. Now, there are limits to my anal play and what I'm in agreement with. I'm not someone who is going to deal with pegging. That's just not that's
Right.
not my cup of tea. But let's be clear, finger toys and things of that nature, cool, we with that. Let's go for it.
You would do toys?
I've done toys.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? And
Where
so,
you been all my life?
so I don't mind a lot of different things, right?
Right.
And because again, I'm very secure and comfortable with my sexuality, but I also
Absolutely.
am secure enough to say, you know what, I ain't tried that, but I'm willing to see if I like it.
Whew.
Because the reality of it is, nowhere else am I going to experience or have people validate my capacity to experience or explore.
Right.
If I'm going to wait on somebody else, I'll never experience my pleasure.
Absolutely.
That part.
And my question to you is, when you were exploring these different facets of sexuality, did you ever feel like you were unable to express things that you genuinely did like due to your, because you are in a frat? Obviously, there's a lot of machismo, a lot of male energy that anything, especially at an HBCU,
Especially.
unfortunately, and I love my HBCUs, but there's always a stigma that things are homo. Homo. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, homosexual.
Yeah.
They can't deal with it. Ew, why would you do that? That's
Yeah.
gay. And it's a lot of derogatory terms that are used.
First of all, let's be very clear. What I do with a woman,
It's not gay.
the
Nothing.
mere definition of gayness is
That
me
part.
dealing with the same sex.
Yes, that
Let's start
part.
there.
Because
Exactly. So if I'm doing this with my woman and we're in agreement, what we do in our bedroom is what we do in our bedroom. Ain't got nothing to do with you. Boom, boom. Hear me? So I don't care what happens or what other people perceive it as. Now,
Right.
granted, yes, there are. Fraternities are always going to have an air of masculinity,
Right.
Yes, always.
and that masculinity is going to always be subject to scrutiny
Right.
based on the generations of men that have come before and that are presenting themselves now. But the reality of this is, those men have to figure out what works for them. Those men may be dealing with some insecurities of themselves.
Right.
Hypermasculine men have been the first group of men that have had sexual contact with other men, more so than anyone else.
We're gonna pause this. We're gonna come back to it.
Mhm.
We're gonna explore this a little bit more
Right.
in our next segment.
Mhm.
So make sure you tune back in because we got a lot more stuff to do. And next week is gonna get even spicier. Like, we got some shit for y'all. But stay tuned and we'll be back.